Where on earth are you? Your child is in serious trouble. One scorching hot day, I screamed over the phone at my son on the other end of the line. His car, which I hadn't noticed until now, was parked in the driveway of my home. Inside the car, which had exceeded 104 degrees Fahrenheit, was my limp 2-year-old grandchild. In this emergency, what could my son and his wife possibly be doing?
We're on a family trip right now.
But my son answered casually and quickly hung up the phone. And after this, when the unbelievable truth became clear, I made a certain decision. Ever since my husband passed away, I, Jesse Johnson, had been living alone. At 60, I had retired from my job and was enjoying a peaceful life, and the source of my joy was the existence of my son's family, who lived nearby. My 34-year-old son, Ian, had married Becky, who was a year younger than him, and they lived as a family of 4 with their 5-year-old daughter, Lily, and 2-year-old son, Christopher. We had a wonderful relationship, whether they invited me out, or I invited them over for meals. And seeing them so happy gave me energy as well. But then, something happened that began to cast a shadow on their peaceful lives.
Mom! Lily finally did it.
One Sunday, my son's family came to visit. The moment they stepped inside, Ian, with a cake box in one hand, excitedly lit up with joy. Lily, my granddaughter, had long dreamed of joining the entertainment world and aspired to become an actress. Ian and Becky, supporting her dreams, had registered her with a child talent agency. And now, Lily's hard work had finally paid off.
She got chosen for the lead role in a drama. The director is famous, and the actors are all very popular too.
She's even been praised as a genius on set. Just like I thought. She's amazing. Just like my kid.
Listening to my son and daughter-in-law's excitement, I felt my heart swell with pride. I knew that my granddaughter had sacrificed playing with her friends to attend daily lessons for her dream. Her hard work had finally paid off, and there was nothing more gratifying. Lily, that's wonderful. Your dream came true. However, the moment I looked at her face, I was taken aback. Despite her dream finally coming true, my granddaughter didn't seem overjoyed. Moreover, when I looked closer, I noticed Christopher, her little brother, sitting with a downcast expression. Is something wrong with the two of you? You both seem a bit down.
It's just that she's a little nervous about the big role. She'll be back to her usual self after having some cake.
But Ian and Becky didn't seem to care about the children's mood and quickly set about serving the cake they'd brought. Yet something was off.
Lily, you'll have this shortcake, right? Mom, which one do you want?
I don't mind, but why are there only 4 cakes? As I prepared the plates, I tilted my head in confusion. There were 5 of us, counting Christopher, who could now eat cake, yet there was 1 cake missing from the box. Becky suddenly shot an angry glare at Christopher.
This boy had an accident in the toilet this morning. So, he's being punished.
At her harsh tone, Christopher visibly flinched. It seemed that Becky was a bit too strict in her parenting. And though Christopher was a rambunctious child by nature, which I found endearing, it appeared she was trying to correct his behavior. But seeing him sit in the back, watching us eat the cake, I couldn't help but feel sorry for him. Let's keep this a secret from Mommy and Daddy, okay? Eventually, when my son and daughter-in-law were away from the table, I secretly gave Christopher some of my cake. Seeing his face light up with a smile, and noticing that Lily relaxed a bit as well, I finally felt some relief. I'm sure it's just their way of parenting, and it's not my place to interfere. But something this small should be fine, right? At the time, that's what I thought. However, an event occurred later that changed everything. Lily's success in the drama turned her into a rising star. Naturally, it was something to celebrate, but as her career in entertainment became busier, the family visits to my home became less frequent. I started seeing Lily more often on a screen than in person. Though it made me feel a bit lonely, I told myself it was fine as long as my son's family was doing well. But then, one day, Ian called me unexpectedly.
Lily's becoming famous, so we want to get her a kid's cell phone. Could you buy it for her as a gift?
Apparently, since she was moving between locations so often, they wanted her to have a way to stay in touch with them and with me. I fully agreed with the idea, but one thing troubled me: Christopher. If that's the case, I'll buy something for both grandchildren. It wouldn't be fair otherwise.
Oh, he doesn't need anything. He's just so spoiled and impossible to handle.
At my suggestion, Ian sighed deeply. The difference in his attitude compared to when he talked about Lily left me furrowing my brow. That's a harsh thing to say. Christopher is a good kid too. While it was understandable that their lives had changed so drastically, it didn't mean they could neglect Christopher.
He's just so much worse than Lily. And it's all your fault for spoiling him so much.
At my comment, Ian's voice suddenly escalated. He continued venting about how Christopher didn't listen and how he was worried that he wouldn't turn out to be a decent person. Initially, I was shocked by my son's outburst, but seeing him so on edge filled me with concern. I had never heard him this worked up before. Maybe Ian just isn't used to the new situation yet. I decided it would be best not to press further and agreed to get Lily the phone, but only under the condition that we didn't tell Christopher. I planned to buy something for Christopher later, once Ian had calmed down. I also decided to keep a closer eye on them from then on. But soon after, an incident occurred that flipped my resolve upside down. A few weeks after buying the phone for Lily, on a particularly hot day, I stepped outside, planning to go to the supermarket. That's when I noticed another car parked in my driveway next to mine. It was my son and daughter-in-law's car. Huh? They didn't say they were coming to visit. The engine wasn't running, and no one seemed to be getting out. Curious, I peeked inside through the window. And the moment I did, my eyes widened in shock. Christopher! What are you doing here? There, in the passenger seat, was my grandson, slumped over and motionless. The temperature gauge inside read 104 degrees Fahrenheit, and it was clear that he was in serious danger. This is bad. I need to hurry. Panicking, I called an ambulance and quickly dialed my son's phone, knowing he had the car keys. It was a record-breaking hot day according to the news. What on earth were they thinking, leaving him in the car like this?
Hello?
Ian, where are you? Your child is in serious trouble. My voice grew urgent as I explained the situation.
We're on a family trip. We're not there.
What do you mean? Christopher is here.
Well, he was being too noisy, so we didn't take him. I dropped him off at your house. You'll figure it out.
Unbelievably, my son brushed off my concerns and hung up the phone without a care. Stunned, I was left standing in disbelief. I had thought their strictness with Christopher was out of concern for his future, but this was clearly going too far. What on earth are they thinking? Just then, I received an email that revealed a shocking truth, one that made me unable to contain my anger any longer. The next morning, after the incident, I arrived at a hotel alone. Of course, I wasn't there for pleasure. I had a clear goal after learning the truth. I will never forgive them for this. Clenching my fists, I entered the lobby and saw two familiar figures sitting comfortably. Approaching them, I called out, "What are you two doing here?" Ian and Becky, chatting casually, turned to look at me in shock.
What? Mom! Why are you here?
Where is Lily?
She's still asleep in the room. We just got out of the bath.
Seeing them leisurely enjoying their trip while Christopher had been left behind, my anger hit its peak. How could you even do such a thing? To treat your own child that way? Recalling the terrifying scene I witnessed in the car the previous day, I shuddered. A few minutes after we found Christopher unconscious, an ambulance and rescue team arrived, and he was somehow saved. Thankfully, he survived with no lasting effects, but the doctor told us that if he had been found any later, he wouldn't be alive today. He's in the hospital now, but... Do you even realize what you've done? As a mother myself, no matter how old they get, your children are always precious. I couldn't comprehend how they could leave their child in such a dangerous place while they enjoyed themselves. It was unthinkable.
You're overreacting. That was just discipline.
Exactly. If only Christopher could be more like Lily and make things easier for us. But he's just noisy.
Yeah, who wants a kid throwing tantrums on vacation? We were nice enough to leave him in front of your house, weren't we?
I let out a deep sigh as I watched the two of them show no sign of remorse. It seems that with Lily's growing fame, they've become even more arrogant than I expected. I couldn't leave my grandchildren in the care of these two any longer. Do you even know how I found out about this place? It was Lily who told me. They hadn't expected Lily to be involved, and my words left them wide-eyed in shock. It all started when I received a message from the kid's phone I'd given Lily, right when Christopher was being rescued. The message said,
"Christopher's still in the car. Grandma, please help him."
Even though their parents were treating her brother this way, Lily was the only one looking out for him.
What? When did she?
That's not all she told me. I know everything about what you've been doing. I stepped closer to my flustered son, showing him my conversation with Lily. After I informed her that Christopher was safe, she began pouring out everything that had happened. Lily told me that Ian and Becky constantly took out their frustrations on her brother. If he made even the slightest mistake, they'd withhold food or hit him. Everything she revealed was too cruel to pass as discipline. It was then that I resolved to bring my son and his wife to justice. But that wasn't the only shocking revelation. And it wasn't even Lily's choice to enter show business, was it? And what you've been saying to Christopher? To my horror, what I had always thought was her dream turned out to be something her parents had forced upon her. Over and over again, she had begged them to let her play with her friends at school. And as for Christopher, they had constantly told him things like, "We don't need you," or "One child is enough for us." Naturally, Lily had been forbidden by her parents to speak of this, but she finally couldn't take it anymore and found the courage to reach out to me for help. "How could you say such things to your own child? You're both unfit to be parents." Realizing the full extent of their horrific actions, I glared at them with all my might. But instead of showing remorse, they exchanged glances and gave the most unsettling smiles.
You can say what you want, but it won't change the way we think, will it?
That's right. Even though we dropped him off, it would have been easier for us if Christopher had just passed away.
I stared at them in disbelief as they chuckled and carried on their vile conversation. I had already decided not to forgive them the moment Lily reached out to me, but hearing this confirmed that they needed to be properly punished. "I'm sorry to say this, but you'll never see your children again."
What? What do you mean by that?
Still oblivious to the situation, they looked up at me with careless grins. "The police are on their way, and the story's going public. The world won't stay silent. I've already spoken to all the necessary authorities." At that moment, their faces tightened with fear. What they didn't know was that after realizing they were incapable of raising children, I had reported the entire situation to Child Protective Services, the police, Lily's agency, and even the media. With all these organizations in motion, the story was bound to make headlines soon. And for Ian and Becky, who thrived on public image and fame, the weight of the news hit them hard.
What? If that happens, how am I supposed to live? My job. They'll find out.
That's right. This whole vacation was paid for with Lily's earnings. Don't take our children from us.
The carefree attitude they had just moments ago vanished as they stood up in a panic. I watched them with a mix of pity and disgust. In the end, they had never cared about their children. They only wanted the money, status, and fame. People like them didn't deserve to be parents to my precious grandchildren. Accept your punishment. It's all your own doing. As I delivered these cold words, they finally understood the severity of the situation. Their bodies stiffened, and they slumped over in defeat. Eventually, the truth came out, and my son and his wife were arrested. With Lily's fame, the media swarmed over the story, and soon their faces were plastered all over the news as villains. Even if they get out of prison, they'll spend the rest of their lives with the public pointing fingers at them. As for me, I ended up taking in both grandchildren. Lily has happily retired from show business and now enjoys playing with her friends at school. Christopher, too, seems much more relaxed and peaceful now that he's in a safe environment. As I continue to cherish this time with them, I find renewed strength to carry on. How did you enjoy this story? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.